I'm Tim Baird and just attending my first DevOps Talks conference. It's been a great event so far, and particularly looking at how we put cultural change into DevOps. The cultural change for me is key because I'm looking to apply it in my organisation. One of the other benefits of the conference has been to get my hands on the DevOps handbook by John Willis, signed copy no less. So it's I'm looking forward to the next day and a half, and yeah, hoping to take away some excellent tips on applying DevOps.
Thank you very much. So, not a DevOps expert. What am I doing here at a DevOps conference? Ironic, hey? But I'll tell you what I do know, and that is people, culture, and communication. So, Peter, your talk earlier really struck a note with me. It hit home because at the end of the day, at the heart of DevOps, the underlying fundamental, most important thing there is the ability to get teams working together and communicating. So that's basically what I do in my role at ANZ. So my focus is about building this digital partner ecosystem. It's how we work with strategic partners, academic institutes like the different universities that we have, the not-for-profits, government, and research institutions to basically get shit done is the best way to describe it. And we partner with these institutions for a couple of different reasons. The first and most obvious is that we want to solve business problems, right? We want to solve problems for our customers. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we partner with you guys, right? If we partner with people out there who know this stuff, who have fresh perspectives and are thinking innovatively in what they do. So that's where a lot of the DevOps, Agile and Lean methodologies come into place. It's about how do we build products, solutions for our customers that are faster, better and cheaper. But the second component of why we build this digital partner ecosystem is to really give back to community. It's because we have a purpose, which is about helping our people and communities thrive. And it's something that means a lot for me personally to be able to give back to our communities and not just sit in our big offices, but we really need to be giving back, because what we also need to do is bring that innovation culture internally into our institutions. So I'm the second person who had my hand up that I work for the big bank, So as part of this giving back concept, this notion of the future of work is something that we talk about. And the future of work it's really important that we have this discussion. Basically what we're seeing in the research that we've done with Data 61 and CSIRO and just common sense is that within the next 15 years, 40 to 50% of Australian roles, Australian jobs will be impacted. We know that obviously significantly impacted from things like automation, right? It's a common sense. So what we need to do is work much quicker, and we need to wake up and get kids thinking about their futures and their careers in a different way. We all need to do that individually because that equates to about 5 million Australian jobs in the next 15 years, impacted or gone. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's actually a huge opportunity. It's super exciting. But adding to the layer of this huge skills shortage we have around STEM and some of the stuff that you guys are doing, there's also this huge issue, this economic imperative of a lack of diversity. And John spoke beautifully about that, trying to get more girls involved in these, workshops and things. Diversity is not just a nice to have, it's something that we can easily say, it's consuming a lot of debate at the moment, but there is actually an economic imperative. The economic imperative is that there's, girls make up more than 50% of the population, but we're seeing about 30% represented in ICT, in the workforce there, 25% in startups, and only 5% or less than 5% with funded startups. Now, that's a huge issue for a lack of perspective, for instance, but what it also means is a great loss in terms of, this nation, this country's economic opportunities, because women CEOs tend to generate 3 times more revenue than enterprises predominantly led by men. And that's just a statistic. That's a fact. So we need to think about how do we get more girls and boys engaged in these types of skills at an early stage. Now, by the time you hit high school, it's too late. Because I don't know if you remember when you were in high school and you're a teenager, you didn't listen to anyone. You did what you wanted to do. And peer pressure was huge. When I was in high school, there was no way I was signing up for, advanced mathematics or, woodworks class or tech class or anything like that, because I just thought I wasn't smart enough, or I didn't fit there's my clicker. I didn't fit the status quo. So what we're trying to do is get kids early before they've made those decisions about themselves. So we do a lot of work with kids from as early as 5 years old. Now, I've got a 6-year-old son. He's already coming home from school saying, nursing's for girls, or, robotics is for boys, right? And that's at 6 years old. So we need to hit them young, where we can at least empower them to think about their careers in a different way. Now, STEM is something that we all talk about, so science, tech, engineering and maths. But I personally believe it's the marrying of those disciplines that's where the magic happens. So it's not just about STEM, but it's about marrying STEM and computational thinking with things like arts and creativity, because they're the skills that we're going to need in the future for a world that's dominated by artificial intelligence and automation. We're going to need people in the workforce who are agile, who are broad-minded, who are creative and critical thinkers. So we started doing these robotics workshops for kids that we try to bring in all of those skills, so thinking creatively and critically, to be able to get kids more engaged in this kind of stuff. And we do that with an organisation called RoboGirls. And RoboGirls are a not-for-profit. They're a bunch of volunteers who don't get paid. They go out and they teach kids how to code and how to get robots moving around in school classrooms around Australia. And they're doing that globally as well. So what I thought of doing is just bringing them over at ANZ and doing a couple of workshops with some staff members, people like me. And then I thought, why don't we just bring in kids? Why don't we bring in staff and their kids? And we got such a huge amount of positive feedback from doing those workshops. And, obviously, I'm going to show you a couple of photos actually, just to give you a bit of a feel of what we do. My son's the one in the red Ferrari or Ducati long sleeve top and the blue hat on the end. But what we're aiming to do is do 50-50 gender split. What we don't want to do is get girls in a room with pink Lego and, get them all rallying around saying girl power, because what that's doing is it's adding to the problem. We don't want to segregate girls from boys because, all we're doing is what we've always done. We want to make sure that we have a bit of healthy competition and we get girls working with boys so they feel equal, like they're contributing. And what we find is we get better results when we bring them together. So these are just some of the kids from the workshop. Now, I've done a couple of corporate videos on these workshops and they're never as good, right? Because you get all these executives talking about the importance of STEM and blah, blah, blah. So I thought I'd show you an iPhone video, just really raw, really unprofessional, and just show you some of the kids working in this environment where we've teamed them up with a Lego EV3 Mindstorm robot, and we do a lot of fun activities like the Mexican wave. We use things like sensors and time codes to get them moving, and as I said, as little as 5 years old, doing some of these workshops. So let's have a look at a quick video.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be an engineer. I liked about today how we got to learn about robotics. It was really fun and it can help develop more people who want to learn about robots. I like the way that we get to program it and download it onto the robot.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
I like to program it and see how it moves and try to follow the line like it did today.
And you guys don't.
And seeing their face light up when they get it to work, right? Because this feedback is immediate. Most things that you do in maths and stuff like that in class, it's very you don't see the effect straight away. Like, you get an equation right, it's like, oh, okay, nice. But in this, right, when you do it, you actually see something move, which is like really, really cool. And when you see their face smile, and you kind of smile as well. So I enjoyed that.
I love seeing these kids. It's so cute. And most of you in the room are parents. I'm quite surprised how many parents we've got in here, but this isn't an imperative just for parents. This is for educators, for anyone working in industry, because at the end of the day, these kids are our future. So we really need to wake up and get moving with this stuff. Just one other really quick example of what we do also at ANZ is everybody knows what a hackathon is, right? We've all been to a hackathon, and I love a good hackathon. I love a good hoodie. But hackathons are typically 2 days, hardcore coding, bunch of guys, pizzas, you know. So we've tried to flip that on its head, and we run more of an open innovation program or an innovation challenge where we use things like DevOps, of course, and Agile and Lean and all of those methodologies. But what we do is we want to get graduates and students job ready, right? Because there's one thing having a great day, a great hackathon, but that's not necessarily going to get them ready for the workforce. So what we've said is let's run an accelerated open innovation program over 6 to 8 weeks where we bring in students and we teach them and train them on real industry problems, not the, I was going to say SHIT, not the stuff we learn at uni, which is completely irrelevant now. It's actually getting them real industry experience so that they can be job ready when they graduate. So we take them through these 6 to 8 week programs. We run masterclasses with them. We train them up on whatever development platform you want to use, whether that's Coney or Bluemix or whatever that may be. And we run through real problems. Okay, we set challenges like how can we use distributed ledger or blockchain to solve trade finance in Asia Pacific, as an example. And this is just a quick example, a snapshot of the recent one I ran in Singapore end of last year, which was we had about 120 students register from NUS, the National University of Singapore, and we had to shortlist that down to about 50. The beauty of this type of program is we bring in other partners. So it's not about the big ugly bank saying we want to do this with students. We bring in GitHub, okay? We bring in not-for-profits like UN Women and big corporates as well like IBM and EY and KPMG and you name it. And then a university partner. And we get them that exposure across industry. And the greatest thing is if we can get 1 or 2 of those students a job at the end of it, like my job's done, that's heaven, right? And this particular one, 2 students got a job at IBM in Singapore as a result of that. Because over 8 weeks, you really get to know someone. And some of these kids are better than executives we've got today. The way that they get up and pitch, the way that they learn and the fresh perspectives they bring are absolutely incredible. So part of this is a talent acquisition piece. But the majority of it is about bringing fresh ideas and creating better business problems. So this is an example of what we did, and I'll end with a really short video of just summing up this particular innovation challenge so you get a feel for it. It's beautiful Singapore, Marina Bay.
Singapore has embarked on a journey to be a global fintech hub, and what better way to demonstrate this than by bringing in some of the brightest and young minds in the nation. Here we are at the ANZ NUS Innovation Challenge, where students are accelerating digital innovation in trade and supply chain finance. There's an array of partners on board from IBM, Thomson Reuters, EY and GitHub. For the students, it's been an intensive 6 weeks of training and learning workshops, and it all culminates right here at IBM Studios in Singapore.
I'm really proud of what I've already seen of this weekend. I think that started a number of weeks ago when I saw the energy that people within ANZ had around, and the way in which people have given up their weekend to be in here, and it looks like it's going to be a great series of presentations that we have lined up for us later in the day.
So I think the energy here is amazing. The student net from NUS and the IBM ecosystem, the ANZ ecosystem, I think there's a good mix of the experience and the raw talent. So I'm hoping by the end of this entire event, we have some really cool use cases that we can sort of take that to market.
I want to see what they come up with, the ideas they come up with, because I'm more interested in the students themselves and what they've achieved. It's more about how they grow from this experience and what we learn from them as well, which is important. And if we get a bit of a product at the end of it, fantastic.
This is an educational innovation-centric event to deliver to a group of young people instruments that are essentially created in industry.
Globally, fintech is taking off. They're there. They are the next generation that's ready to take up the challenge of becoming fintech entrepreneurs. I hope to see them as my clients in the fintech space within the next 2 to 3 years. It's great.
Couple of examples of where we've worked with kids. Oh, I love working in the dark. It's awesome. Don't put the lights back on. Working with kids and teenagers, right? To really come in at those critical moments in your career. So thank you for that. I hope as a parent, an educator, someone working in industry, you can go back and share some of those insights about, you know, the importance of hitting up kids early around these opportunities. At the end of the day, we want all kids to have the equal opportunity to pursue what it is that they want to do. But we really need to focus on what those kind of jobs look like in the future and how do we help empower them to make those calls. Thank you.
Thank you. That was good. Yes, please stay. Don't disappear. Maybe John can come back as well at some stage. There you are. I have a few questions, and it's a fascinating topic. So there are organizations in Australia that are running similar programs. Like, for example, Australian Stock Exchange, they have the share market game that the schools can get involved in. Then there's a $20 boss program. Collective Campus is running Lemonade Stand, which is the business school for kids that my son went to and really enjoyed it. I'm interested in your thoughts on teaching business skills to kids versus teaching the more of a technical skills, like in an innovation challenge that you do, or the hands-on technical stuff. So what are your thoughts?
That's really interesting. I mean, I think it also comes down to the individual. I mean, you know your kids better than anyone else, and have the conversation with them. See where they thrive. Let them experiment a little bit, and then you'll know, you know, which program to support and which program to sort of enroll in. One of the things I would mention is, you know, school holidays. The first thing we think about is which basketball camp's on, and they're great. There's some fantastic sports programs out there, but we don't hear about the other stuff that's happening around kids in business, kids in tech, kids in innovation, and there's a lot of stuff out there that if you just open your eyes and start to do a bit of research, you'll see how many things there are. So I'd say have the conversation with the child, see where they thrive. But I agree, they're equally as important, right? And as I said before, it's the marrying of the disciplines. It's not just the STEM skills, it's the critical thinking and the entrepreneurial mindset that we need to tap into if we're going to, you know, be successful in the future.
And what about your thoughts? I'm interested in when you train the DevOps guys, do you focus more on the business, on them understanding what the business, how do they fit into the business, or do you focus more on their technical skills?
So not DevOps girls, the DevOps grads. Oh yeah, definitely. I think a good way to like illustrate it is we don't really want them to like memorize how to do certain things as much as we want them to be asking lots of difficult questions. And I think sort of like once you get started on getting them used to the idea of asking why, like everything kind of like crops up from there.
Thank you. And what age do you think you can start training, you know, the kids in?
Yeah. I mean, as early as possible, right? For Christmas, I bought my son the Sphero, the Apple Sphero robot, right? And the great thing about that kind of product is, I mean, he was 5 at the time, and my 11-year-old, you know, is obviously more advanced and can do some more complex activities. But you can tailor the programs that you provide. So as a parent or an educator, you can say to the 5-year-old, do a little bit of a map on the floor, put some stickers out, get the robot to move around. But for the older one, we can do a lot more with sensors and things like that. So as early as possible, and I think kids are digital natives anyway. They're far beyond where we are, and they've already built, you know, digital intelligence and digital literacy, you know, at a much quicker rate than what we have. So I'd say as early as possible.
Yeah, thank you. And you spoke about one form of training of pairing. What are your thoughts on bringing kids into the office and pairing up with them?
We're actually starting to experiment with that. So I don't have kids, so I don't understand it that well yet. But you know, we're still sort of like exploring what the upper bound limits is as far as what kind of information we can deliver. But you know, probably would help if I had children. So
can't help you with that. You obviously work with a lot of entrepreneurs and innovators. And what are some of the best qualities you've observed in them? And what qualities do you think would be important to develop in kids?
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of work with entrepreneurs and startups, right? We're not 100% startup ready, to be honest. As you know, we're a big bank with lots of process and bureaucracy, but we're trying to be more startup ready. So I personally am really passionate about working with startups and coaching them, not only how we engage with them, but also how they engage with us. So I would say the key skills of a successful entrepreneur or a successful leader is really the most important, the passion that you have for your idea, for what you're trying to achieve. Because without that passion, without that why, you're really not going to get anywhere. So it's that passion to be able to execute on your idea and not just have this great idea, because the great idea is absolutely nothing if you can't execute it. And my favourite mentor is probably Simon Sinek, and he always uses that quote: people buy not what you do, but why you do it. So if you believe in your why and you're passionate about it, other people will follow you. And that's why, you know, successful entrepreneurs are successful, because they're so passionate about what they do. And the other thing I'd say is this hunger for knowledge and perspective. We can sit in our own space and, you know, have our own insights, but you're never going to be able to, you know, to really, really be a successful entrepreneur unless you build diverse teams, unless you have that perspective and you have that hunger for knowledge and information, and that you care about what your customer actually thinks of you, and you iterate at every stage.
Thank you. I think if we still have some time. I think if you look around the room, you'll probably notice that the diversity in DevOps is probably not our strongest thing. So I guess maybe let's talk about diversity. Why is it not just a nice to have now? And not just diversity in terms of male or female, but I guess diversity in more broad terms.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll quickly run through the male-female. So I think I went through a couple of key stats around the 3 times more generation of profit. So there's the economic imperative, but there is that, you know, that 50% of the population is female and make up 50% of your customer base potentially. So if we're not truly tapping into another opinion or another diverse perspective, then we're missing, you know, part of our customer at the end of the day. And diversity is so much more than male and female, but it's perspectives of all different walks of life, of, you know, different cultures, different backgrounds and skills and experience. All right? We no longer hire for experience anymore. You know, it's more about the values that you bring and that shared value in terms of what you're trying to achieve. So it's thinking about that in a different way and understanding that diverse perspectives and diverse opinions are going to give you much greater returns.
I think the follow-up question is how do we attract you know, more, let's say, females into the DevOps?
Yeah. So I mean, I said it before, when I was in high school, I was not interested because I didn't fit the picture. So we need to look at this from a grassroots perspective, right? We need to go back. And it's the same thing with the hackathons. The more hackathons we do with the pizzas and the hoodies, we're just not going to attract the diverse communities that we need to, because that doesn't attract everybody. Right? Now, one of my favourite shows in the world is Silicon Valley. I absolutely love that program. But when you look at a picture of Silicon Valley, it's 5 guys coding in the garage. And that's how we all sort of see development and coding. So it's about understanding how to build that culture at a grassroots level. So almost thinking like, as cool as it is to have the ping pong table in the office, is that really attracting the kind of diverse opinions and the diverse people that you need in your organisation? What's going to work best for you and for what you're trying to achieve? So I'd say go back to that grassroots issue and try to build that culture from the ground up. And that some of the programs that we've done, it's trying to hit people at a much younger age so that they can be a bit more empowered about their careers, rather than say now, me, I never studied it because I didn't think I was nerdy enough or I wasn't smart enough. So going back and trying to, little by little, let people feel a bit more empowered about what they're doing. Challenge the status quo.
Thank you. And just a final question: how do we get involved?
How do we get involved? Yeah.
How do we help?
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm always on the lookout for new people to collaborate with, right? And it's the meetups that you go to. It's we have fintech meetups that we attend. It's the stuff that happens after hours. I personally believe that that's where the magic happens. That the greatest networks I've made are the ones where I've gone to an event on a weekend, or I've gone to a Spark festival or some other festival, and I've met that one person who can, we can help each other. And whether that be promoting their business or providing some advice for their startup or collaborating on a major program like a hackathon or an innovation challenge, it's those connections and networks that you make, that's where the magic happens. So in terms of ANZ, I mean, you can absolutely reach out to me via Twitter and stay across some of the kids' workshops and stuff that we're doing in that space and just stay in touch, I'd say. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, John. Please put your hands together for the food.